I used to love astrophysics. I have a collection of astrophysics books in my room. I used to want to be an astrophysicist until I realized I'm actually not too great at physics. And I'm also scared of space.
Hello, and welcome back to the Voice for You podcast, where we empower the leaders of today and tomorrow. I'm your host, Jeshwant Vana. Today, I'm joined by a young leader in our community. She is a champion for education and collaboration. She has done research with UNCW's Wang, Taylor, and Coleman Labs, as well as research with NASA and the Plastic Ocean Project. As a Disney Dreamers Academy alumni and Boston Rise biomedical engineering intern, she was later recognized as a World Science Scholar. Her work, along with the World Science Scholar, has definitely not gone unnoticed, as she was also named a 2025 Koch Scholar. Championing education and collaboration through not just research but leadership in her own community, she is Miss Maya Roseboro. How are you doing today, Maya?
I'm doing great. Thank you for the introduction.
Definitely. People, the work that you've done, it definitely deserves an introduction like that, 100%. Being that student leader, for your community, you're doing research, helping not only just your local community, but, the nation, international, definitely deserves a big introduction and a big round of applause for sure. 100%. But once again, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. Like I said, it really does mean a lot to me. Taking a shot on me, coming here, spreading your words of wisdom, and telling us about yourself. And speaking of, telling a bit about yourself, let's hop right into that. Tell me a little bit about yourselves, your hobbies, your passions, and who you are as a person.
Well, you know what my name is. I'm Maya Roseboro. I'm from North Carolina. I've grown up as a Black woman in that community. I have been in a unique high school environment, I'd say, in the sense that I went to early college, but then I had involvements with another high school for athletics. And then I also had club athletics. So I felt like I belonged to a couple of different communities that I felt like have really impacted me in my life. As for my hobbies, I love art. You probably wouldn't see it in a gallery anytime soon, but more of a personal passion. I like oil pastels and acrylic paint, if anyone is interested. Besides that, I enjoy spending time with my twin sister. We are very close, even though not identical. We still enjoy spending time together, watching movies. We like Criminal Minds and Grey's Anatomy. And then outside of that, you said I love athletics. I love being on my feet. I like moving around. I like being outside a lot. I think that that's pretty common growing up in a beach town, but I enjoy it, getting to have that release. And then outside of that, things you might not know about me, I used to love astrophysics. I have a collection of astrophysics books in my room. I used to want to be an astrophysicist until I realized I'm actually not too great at physics. And I'm also scared of space. However, still very interested in that as well. So that gives you a little bit more about me.
Definitely. One of my friends, he's actually on my, he's on the podcast team for Voice for You. This man is the biggest Criminal Minds addict I've ever seen in my life. I look over at his laptop and I see criminal, that kind of genre playing. Every single time I go, is that NCIS? And he looks at me like looking at me like I'm a total idiot. And he goes, no, it's Criminal Minds. And it just happens. It's happened at least 100 times every single time. And then every single time I go up to him, he's watching that. I always catch myself right before I say NCIS. It's like, no, he's going to say Criminal Minds again and call me an idiot. But he's a big criminal. I need to get on crime dramas, low key.
You should.
I
highly recommend.
Definitely. One of my favorite shows of all time is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's a lot less serious than Criminal Minds and NCI, but 100% recommend Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I love that show so much. It's always gonna have somewhere in my heart.
That's right now.
Yeah, definitely. What athletics did you do? Did you
I did cross country and track for Ashley High School, and then I did club outdoor indoor track, which was between seasons.
Okay, what event did you do in track?
I did, not in one track meet at one time, but through the season I rotate through the open 8, the open 4, the 4x800, the 4x400, the mile, and the 2 mile.
Okay, so that is a lot. That's a lot of running. That is. Do you like find like joy in like running if it's like something?
I actually enjoy running. I was one of the people where our coach would have to tell me not to go over a certain amount of miles because I would just keep running until he told us we had to stop. I enjoy, I think, not just the act of running and being physically active, but I really enjoy the community of my team, especially because like my team being from Ashley High School, I sort of got a break from the environment of Isaac Bear, which is where I attended high school. And so I could run, if you gave me one person and a good conversation, we could be running for more than 2 hours. However, I've never done a half marathon, never done a marathon. It's a goal, but yes, I do enjoy running.
Definitely. I know running. That's very rare. A lot of people, it's like they don't like running at all. It's very rare to find the people that actually do like.
I'd say it's pretty common on the team to find people that just do it because they're good at it, or just do it because they feel impelled to. Sort of they just have to do it. It's obligatory for them. But
Yeah.
I think it's sometimes a little rare, but I do enjoy it.
Okay, yeah, because I'm telling you, I'm not a runner myself. I think my best time is like 8:30. Like, actually, it's like maybe 8 minutes for a mile, which is not bad.
Mm-hmm.
But compared to like track runners, that's bad. Sad.
I mean, all within perspective. My mile PR, of course, does not be your personal record. Like,
yes.
Me running 5:40 took a couple of seasons.
Yeah.
And definitely a bunch of seasons of me not running 5:40.
Yeah, it's that buildup. That's how most sports work. You gotta put the grind in, the hustle. Otherwise, nothing comes out of it at the end. So. Yeah, for sure. But before I start my interviews, I like to ask a icebreaker question, a lighthearted question.
Okay.
Nothing too serious, nothing like that. So if you could have a conversation, like say if you had that one animated character from any animated show, animated movie, to tell you, like like how they have like that one person that talks in your ear to give you advice and stuff. So if you could have one animated character like that, who would it be and why?
Okay, I would say Princess Tiana, and I say this because I resonate a lot with the message of the movie, and I think that one of the songs, I think it's called Almost There. I'm not sure if that's the name of the song or a lyric from the song, but she sings that, and I think having someone on my shoulder saying those words, you're almost there, and the lyrics keep going. Like, it's about not just motivation, but knowing that you can be tempted sometimes to give up and it gets hard, but you keep going because you're almost there. So I would say Princess Tiana because of that. And I think I'm also a little biased. That was the first Disney movie I believe I had seen in theaters. So I think that message and Princess Tiana in spirit has at least stuck with me to some sense already. So if I had to choose anybody, I feel like it would be her because I feel like she's already with me. If that makes sense.
Definitely, 100%. Would you say you watched a lot of Disney movies as a kid?
I probably did. I am a bit of a Disney fanatic. It's so, I mean, not an expert on any of the films by any means, but I love the films. I love watching them, and I love visiting the theme parks. So
definitely. I'm supposed to be going to Disneyland next week. So I've never been to Disney World or Disneyland, so I'm excited. But do you have a top 3 for your top 3 Disney films of all time?
Oh gosh. Okay, so top 1 is going to be The Princess and the Frog. I'd say a second is Encanto, and then third, that's going to be tough. I think my third, I'm blanking on the name, which is definitely not good. Oh, Aladdin. That's it, Aladdin. Okay. All I could think of was the magic carpet, and I was like, that's not the name.
I think mine first one would be The Lion King.
Okay.
And then it's like Aladdin. It's like tie for two between like Aladdin and The Emperor's New Groove.
Okay.
The biggest like, because The Emperor's New Groove is so underrated. Like it's genuinely underrated. It's such a funny Disney movie. It should be a Disney classic. I don't know why it's not, but I love that movie so
I
much.
think I probably watched it. I know I watched it.
It's the one where the guy turned into a llama.
Yep. Okay. That's the one. I like the movie too.
Yeah, it's so underrated. It definitely needs more props than it gets, in my opinion, because it doesn't get any props whatsoever, and it's like annoying. Especially because it came right after like the Disney Renaissance,
Mhm.
and it was like before the 3D animation. It was that dry period in between in the early 2000s, which is genuinely it doesn't deserve that because
Right.
it was a good movie
It's a
for
very
sure.
good movie.
You know, like yourself, I would say growing up, I didn't watch like the movies. Like I did try watching as many as I could, but we never had like I didn't have like, the Disney Channel growing up or anything. I was a PBS kid. But I would say I'm a Disney fanatic. I've known all the movies. I know most of the stories by heart. Princess and the Frog is really good. When I did have Disney Plus, I tried watching all of the animated movies, especially like the classics. Princess and the Frog, that's where, it like ended off with like the Disney Renaissance and then it picked back up with Princess and the Frog, leaving the Emperor's New Groove to just die in a hole there for no reason at all whatsoever. I'm telling you, I'll be the biggest advocate for that movie so much. But, Encanto is surprising because when most people say like recent Disney movies, they don't usually talk about like good. I personally not the biggest fan of Encanto. It's a little bit hard to take, but I feel like that's the only thing that carries the movie per se.
I think the reason it resonated with me so much was because I used to be someone that hated musicals with a burning passion.
Oh, yeah.
I think that it's like Encanto and Soul and having these movies that circulate around music and me like not totally being repulsed. I don't know what I have against musicals if I'm being honest, but I think that's what makes it up in the top ranking. However, it will be bound to it could be bound to move and shift, but right now, yes.
Definitely.
I haven't watched it recently. I think I watched a lot of the movies before summer because I started working. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not only am I a Disney fanatic, but I'm also a big movie guy, so I'm also watching for the plot too. I personally did not think Encanto had. I don't think that it was just it was just music the whole time. I can't think of plot for that movie. It was obviously we don't talk about Bruno was playing for straight. Like you just go on TikTok. We don't
you don't
talk
talk
about
about it.
like it's over and over and over again. Holy. But definitely, Disney comes off with some banger of songs like the Lion King soundtrack. All of that, it's tough. Lion King
Right.
stuff, it's tough. It is tough. Mulan's got some hitters. Aladdin's got a lot of hitters, like a lot of hitters. Obviously, Princess and the Frog got a good amount of hitters. But that Disney Renaissance era, just in general, Disney musicals, they all have hitters, and they're obviously remaking all of them. I believe that they have a Princess and the Frog remake in the works.
I think they do. I have to say, I'm not the biggest fan of remakes, and maybe
Yeah.
that's a hot take, but
No. That's a perfectly fine take. The remakes, most of them are like really bad. They're not the best. Like, I know the Lilo and Stitch one is doing pretty well. That's like the only like decent
that's
one.
the only one.
Yeah, the Jungle Book. Jungle Book's probably my top 5. I don't know. It's always changing. I mean, obviously, I can resonate to the Jungle Book pretty well. So the Jungle Book remake's really good. I know
I
that.
haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I'll have to write that one down too.
because the Jungle Book like just has had so many remakes. Because it's not just because it was a book before, right? Like
Hmm.
it was written by Rudyard Kipling. So they have like the Disney movie, and then they have a bunch of remakes that aren't a part of Disney, but then a part of Disney. About Mowgli's story and the animal story and like Shere Khan's story and all that. So yeah, definitely Disney. That's just how any kid should. Disney is, especially the classics. Because I be talking to people, they're like, I'm talking about the Lion King. I just assume everyone's seen the Lion King. Then they go, I've never seen The Lion King in my life. I'm like, Lion King? Like, what? Like, you're like I understand if you haven't seen the live action version, but like the animated
The
version.
original?
So some people be sleeping on that, and I personally think that they're missing out on a lot because you can watch them even when you become an adult, in my opinion. So yeah, 100%. But first off, congratulations on graduating high school. It is a
Thank you.
big, it is a big accomplishment. But as a senior that has graduated, what school have you committed to, and what about that college? First attracted you to apply there, but also then commit at the end.
Okay, loaded question. Okay, so to start, I committed to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. I first thought about applying when I was at an internship last summer. That was at Boston University. That was through Boston Rise. And my mentor, one of my mentors, was an MIT graduate student. I think that exposure and that internship encouraged me to be at least confident in applying. It was on the list. I mean, everyone has the list of like 24 or something schools, all the Ivies. It was definitely up. MIT was up there. I applied early and I got in early. So I applied early, not because I thought I'd have a better chance of getting in, but because I wanted to find out sooner, so I could just get the relief off of my chest. Before then, I did do a fly-in program for MIT, so I think a bunch of Ivy League schools and top 20 schools, a couple private ones too, have fly-in programs where you can have a couple of days and learn more about the campus and the admissions process. So I did apply to that and I got into, and I think that made me more also excited and anticipating that I'd be applying early. So I found out early and still didn't commit. I found out in December. I was actually in Disney World when I opened my acceptance letter. We weren't celebrating me getting accepted. We were going to be there anyways, and the days just fell that way. I committed on decision day, and I waited that long to commit because I was very torn. I ended up getting into all the programs I applied to. So I applied to Johns Hopkins Biomedical Engineering, Duke Pratt School of Engineering, Biomedical Engineering at Georgia Tech, UNC Chapel Hill, and then A&T, which is in North Carolina. And so I got into those programs, and then I ended up getting offered a full ride scholarship at Duke. So when it came down to decision day, it was very much between MIT and Duke. I'd already decided just financially that I wasn't going to go to Georgia Tech or Johns Hopkins. So it really was between just MIT and Duke. And what made me choose MIT was, for a very long time, I didn't think I was someone that was going to get into MIT, and it was really a dream school. It was Harvard and then MIT. That I took Harvard down the list, and MIT made it. Duke wasn't always the dream. It's a very, very great school, and having that scholarship was going to be exceptional. But I knew that I loved MIT. I loved the experience I had at my fly-in. I loved when I was able to visit the campus before my other internship last summer in Boston. And I attended Campus Preview Weekend, which was just another opportunity to experience and engage with the community and the other people that were accepted. I chose MIT because MIT felt like home, or a place that could be the new home for me. I was very excited every time I got to talk about MIT, every time I got to visit all the new people I'd met. I would always just rant at home and reminisce about Campus Preview Weekend. And I loved Duke, and I think one part was that it was still in state. So I'm from North Carolina, and a big part of me just always wanted to go out of state for school. And so MIT was the dream. I was already in love with it. And we could make the financial situation work. I've gotten multiple scholarships. So this was the only time MIT was going to be possible. And so I pressed commit on decision day for MIT.
Definitely, definitely. Um, obviously MIT is your dream school, and ironically, my dream school is actually my dream school is Duke University. You mentioned, I don't know if you saw my face, you mentioned that you got full rides at Duke. My eyes popped
Yes.
out of my head. Were you a Robertson scholar?
No, it wasn't Robertson. It was AB, AB scholar. I think Andrew B. Memorial scholar. I think it's a similar concept where you get to travel. So it's you spend a summer in Oxford. They pay for everything. You get other travel opportunities. It's internal. So as one you got considered for after being accepted. I applied to Robertson. I didn't get that, but I believe Robertson was a separate application, maybe.
Yes,
But
yes.
I think they're quite similar.
Okay, because I mean, you said free full ride to Duke. My eyes just popped. That's been my dream school since like fifth grade. So I've always been a big Blue Devil guy, and hopefully, I'm a rising senior, so hopefully I can make that. Obviously, MIT was your dream school, and you had that choice, and hopefully I get that choice too. And obviously, everyone wants to go out of state, and
Mhm,
I do now thinking about it. You are in state for Duke, so that
mhm.
makes a lot of sense why you decided to go out of state. But side question. For your Coca-Cola scholarship essay, did you write about seagulls?
Siegel?
No, okay, because I was doing another interview. Someone told me that there was a girl at MIT that wrote about seagulls and it was like a really, really good. She's going to MIT, so I just wanted to ask that real quick
It was not me.
because I heard it was like the essay was like really, really good. If I do run across anyone, then I should ask that question. But MIT still like you got into every single like all those programs are crazy to get into too.
Yes. I I don't think I really let it sink in too often.
Yes,
And I think a lot of people get hung up on me not looking for any Ivy League school. But then I remember I told myself I only wanted to apply to the best biomedical engineering programs. And I was talking to one of my recommenders, and he said Harvard doesn't have the best biomedical engineering program. And I said, you're right.
exactly.
So I think, well, I have to say, that was not my original list. If you asked junior year me what my list was, it was probably every single Ivy League and more. So yes, I'm happy I got into those schools and programs that I had choice.
Those are all crazy schools. Like at Georgia, I know Georgia Tech's but really good. Duke's super good at biomed. MIT, John Hopkins got a really good program there too. What was the other school? And then there's ANC, and then was there another school?
UNC Chapel Hill.
Yes, in the Chapel. No, North Carolina area is just crazy when it comes to biomedical engineering, I believe. Like UNC and Duke are both like really. Yeah, I know UNC is really good for pre-med, so I'm obviously gonna assume that they're
Yeah,
good
they are.
for EME too. So 100%. But no one's trying to stay like in state for like we gotta experience a little bit of flavor.
Hmm. Yeah, I think. Yeah, the only thing that would have kept me in state was Moorhead Kane and then Duke. But I remember talking to one of my teachers about it. Not teacher. She's technically not a teacher. One of the faculty slash staff of my school who described it as I worked hard for an education beyond the scope of North Carolina. And not in
Exactly.
the sense that Duke is incredible. UNC is incredible. NC State, we have incredible research in technology and biomedical engineering happening in the triangle in those areas of the state. However, the feats of getting into an area like concentrated with tech, such as that, outside of the state, I should take that opportunity.
Exactly. Exactly. And like, I mean, yeah, you obviously have done a lot of work to go outside the state. And obviously the schools that you did mention are like really good. I'm obviously gonna glaze Duke till the day I die. Actually, if they don't accept me, then maybe I'll stop the glaze there. But Hopefully that doesn't happen. Knock on wood.
Fingers
Hopefully.
crossed for you.
Fingers crossed. I'm praying at this point. But to get into all of these schools, to be going to MIT, you must have some crazy, crazy extracurriculars, which you do, plus a passion for what you do, such as doing research with not just one, not just two, but three labs at UNCW. Three different labs. I did mention earlier that is the Wang, the Taylor, and the Coleman labs. So, what did each of these labs' research consist of?
Okay, so the first one was the Long Lab, and that was in biochemistry, chemistry department. For that one, I started with a project that was investigating congenital cataracts and ways that the oxidative pathway could be manipulated and cause cataract. And then the second lab that I got into, and the first one that was in zebrafish. And I ended up later switching to a different project that is investigating so there's a globin protein family. I'm part of the Brain Hub research slash globin family research that's happening within our lab and just a community of researchers across the university. And that project is more so looking at specific protein that's contained within muscle tissue and how genetic differences against like a deep diver that has to hold a lot of oxygen versus us. We don't have to hold a lot of oxygen because we're on the surface and it's abundant to us. So there's a project investigating that. And junior year, I got involved in, it's the Taylor lab and the Coleman lab at staggering different times. I got into the Taylor lab from one of my biology classes because we had a unit on microscopy, and I took a tour of the microscopy core facility and got really interested in scanning electron microscopy. So that's what my project was doing. I was helping a graduate student and helping conduct a couple of experiments on coccolithophores, which it's an algae that has plates around it and calcium plates, so they have a bunch of different plates. There's some that are shaped like barrels, and then some are shaped like a dinner plate. Some have ridges, some don't. So we're looking at a couple of different species, and I would help process the experiments, help set up some experiments, and help with writing some grants. I got grant funding for that lab, and then the Wong lab as well. And then the Coleman lab was another one. I think I got interested in it because of a seminar that I got to sit in on. It was a senior seminar on neurodegenerative diseases, and the Coleman lab is in the psych department, psychoimmunology. So they do their research in mice, and what that lab is looking at is a bit of the differences in how the immune system responds between males and females, if it's an animal that exercises a lot versus don't, how you are able to respond, recover, and how treatments work for different immune challenges. So that is a little bit of the scope of what that project is looking at. There are a couple of projects in that lab, and I was still sort of a core microscopy person. And so, when you have the animal, what we're looking at tissues. So we would essentially just take the brains, and I would help image tissue so that you can process that and get data from that. So it was a lot of overlap, but if I'm being honest, I delegated most of my time on weekends or during the summer. Sometimes during the school week, I would also block off time in creating my schedule, because that task load got to be a lot, I have to say. But I don't regret it at all, because I loved each lab so much, and the culture and the work I was doing. And it takes me back to what I was saying about having multiple interests and not all of them connecting, because I honestly can't tell you what would be a direct connection between a coccolithophore and neuroplasticity. However, they're both very interesting. So
Exactly. I'm currently doing a internship at the University of Memphis in biomedical engineering. We think
Okay.
we have a decent program when it comes to BME there.
Hmm.
And right now, they're doing the work there is basically, trying to create like for like what's it called, prosthetics, and trying to diverge, not have bacteria, attack it and all that. It's the most in that's the most informal way ever to describe that, but you get the gist. But right now I'm currently working on, imaging the tissues of the mice specimen that they have used for this. Obviously the psych labs always have the mice in them, and working on that, and you juggled three labs at once. And obviously you did say you do research and the weekends and summers, but three labs at once is like crazy.
I enjoyed it. I know it was a lot, and I know things got chaotic at times, but I just remember anytime I had to miss the lab on the weekend, I would just be so sad about having to say I can't come into the lab today. And even then, I remember when last summer I was leaving for a different internship at Boston University, I was just cramming, trying to get as much as my work done before I left, because I was like, I want the value of my work and time to be evident. And so I'm like, I'm going to do as much as I can before I have to leave, and then do as much as I can as soon as I get back, because I love the labs. So
Exactly.
if I had to say, no, I wouldn't change it. I would, if I had to go back and do it again, I would still do all three of those labs. I wouldn't change anything about it.
Definitely, what was I gonna say? Yeah, some people are busybodies. They like staying busy, I'm like one of those people, I hate it when I just sit on my phone and just like rot. It feels better when I'm actually doing something, because it seems like I actually like making an impact in my society rather than scrolling on TikTok for 3 hours. Like, what do we gain from that? Nothing. So yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from with that. So how did you like schedule those? Because I know they didn't like overlap like all three at once, but like how did you like say if like two overlapped? How would you do that? Would you do like one Saturday, one Sunday?
So it would be, if during the week, so I make my own classes, so I could be able to make classes that have a 3 hour block or so time. And so if I had the time one day within that 3 hour block, I would choose one lab to go to and have a consistent schedule for that lab for that day. And then on weekends, it usually happened where I would like divide up a half day, or I would do like alternate weekends, sort of like a bi-weekly schedule in a sense. However, that was less than ideal, because ideally it was that I got into each lab like during that week. So it usually worked out that I would split a day. And then sometimes experiments would run so long in like a biochemistry lab. If I had an experiment that was going to take 6 hours to run, and I can set it up and automate it, then I could spend that time, set it up, go to my imaging lab and the Taylor lab and process some samples on the SEM, and then go back to my other lab, collect my samples that I just finished with, and then day is over. So that's how I managed it. But you're correct that like sometimes it would be a trade-off of which one do I go to today, which one do I have time to do the work for, because I'm not gonna have the time every single Saturday to do the
Exactly.
same 6 hour experiment. So it was just a matter of being able to be held accountable, set days, set times, talk to my professors, discuss my availability, my goals, because obviously I'm contributing something to the lab, but also trying to gain from the lab as well in terms of the skills, the knowledge, and you can't gain that if you're not there.
Exactly. Exactly. But like not only has your work with these three labs ever like overlapped? Like have you used like the information you learned from one lab to use in another lab or so on and so forth?
In terms of skills, I'd say that animal handling. So, I mean, a zebrafish is different than a mouse, but in terms of the training of being able to handle an animal, you go through the same process through iCook. Oh, that's an acronym stands for. I probably cannot recite the full acronym, but just the approval process to be able to handle animals. I mean, you're familiar with. You said you work with. But
Yes.
in terms of discipline overlap, I'd say that microscopy is probably the closest you're gonna get because I used a light compound microscope mostly for the Common Lab, and I used SEM and sometimes light compound for the Taylor Lab. I mean, pipetting skills always transfer, chemistry knowledge about buffers always transfers, and then basic biology always transfers between like the Coleman Lab and the Long Lab, and Taylor Lab as well. But I think that is the maximum of shared information between the labs.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, they're all different, like you said. They're all different fields and stuff. So obviously, they're not going to be like crazy, crazy overlaps. But science is still like science. So there's got to be like a tad bit,
Just
whether
a
it's
little, yeah.
yeah, like it doesn't have to be topic wise, but like you said, handling like animals and
Mhm.
like skills and all that. So definitely, definitely. But not only have you done research, part of these three labs, you have done work with NASA. So what did your NASA work consist of?
So that's part of the analysis working groups, which are called AWGs. And they have different sections you can join. So they have animal cell, AI, machine learning, etc. So, and then within that, they have different divisions, project groups, if you shall say. And they have an open forum space that definitely describes it in more detail than the credit I am giving it. But that space was different in the sense that most of everyone is virtual. If you can imagine, this is collaborative science, so it's someone from California connecting with someone from Massachusetts, connecting with someone from Florida. So a lot of that work is just organizing data because there are large repositories of data, and before an experiment can take place, it all has to be processed and organized by experts. So I'm not an expert. So I mostly was there to facilitate conversation, join meetings, attend symposiums. Johns Hopkins had a symposium one time, and learn what I could. And then it's like us reporting to the experts, and they delegate tasks. We communicate back what we found. Large lit reviews. Sometimes it helps having a network across the country versus your own lab. So that's what that was. And then they would have other events, another research symposium. It was a gravitational, not remembering the acronym, but another symposium. And I think I had submitted a proposal to that one to present a poster, but then it got accepted and I couldn't go. So those are the types of things that I would do with them. But that's all virtual because my UNCW is not a university that has those like the facilities for the type of research they're doing. So that was the limitations of that.
Exactly. I didn't know NASA actually did work with like animal stuff. I mean, when you say NASA, it's like the space station. So like, it's like I didn't know they did that kind of stuff. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is really interesting. Like just having the exposure to that because it's not every day that you get to sit on a Zoom with people talking about this like new research. And sometimes it's just a question of, can this be research? Like, how would you answer this question? And so those types of conversations in those settings when I'm just in high school. And also, it's not like they're teaching you these things in school. So I think that
Definitely.
was another part that's interesting about it. Because, I mean, it's not like you sit in class and learn, this is what NASA's doing. I mean, because you always hear about the new robot they've built, or a new supply mission, or is there life on Mars, is obviously a
Yes,
big
that's a
question.
big question. A big question for
But
everybody.
it's not like you always hear the other conversations and more conversations about, oh, how can we support astronaut health in space? Like, is there a way to make better medicine for astronauts, like just looking at vitamins? The things such as that I think are really interesting. And I think anyone can join. I remember there not being, you have to have relevant experience.
Yeah.
So however they quantify that, and then they they accepted me. I was a high school when I applied, so it can happen.
Yeah, I mean, so you take a shot. If you make it, you make it. If you miss it, oh, well, try the next one. So definitely, I can see where you're coming from there. But you were also not only with NASA and the 3 labs, you were also involved, like you did mention earlier, the Plastic Ocean project with Mar Bionic, I believe. So how did you
Yes.
get involved with that?
Okay, so Mar Bionic, I got involved with that by emailing someone else while I was at another research program, because I was really interested in nanoparticles for a while, and I had applied to a summer research program for the nanoparticle research group and then got placed in the ethical data science research group. So I got involved because I had an idea and still wanted a space to explore it at another point in time, because I was going to be somewhere else during the summer, but I was going to return. It was still, Mar Bionic is on the campus of the Marine Science Center for UNCW, so pretty close near campus. I know it's going to come back. So I sent a cold email with an idea saying, I'm really interested in this area of research. I have no idea if this is actually something that's feasible within your lab. All I know is that you're the only lab that might have any facilities to answer this question. And so I sent the cold email, and they were willing to take a volunteer researcher. And so I went just once a week, a couple of hours, and I got trained, learned pretty quickly, could do tasks independently. If I just met with whoever was in during the morning, they gave me the rundown of what they needed done, and I would do it. So that's how I got involved with them. Oh, in the application nanoparticles, I was interested in some aspect of using them for filtering and cleaning water. And I actually ended up not answering that question with this project. I was more so looking at local samples and polymers and plastics we have a river, and then the intercoastal, and then the garbage patches in the Pacific. So did that, and then that was one where you maxed at 40 hours for the internship, and then it was done. So that's how I got involved with them. Definitely a bit of a divergence for a short period of time, but it was just a semester.
Yeah, work. I mean, you did put in the work, so might as well get recognized for it. And then obviously it was local work with you taking water samples from your local area, especially because you are in like a low, like you did mention, you were in a near coastal area. So obviously
Yes.
those samples are going to be a lot more valid than, I mean, I can't say myself because I'm right next to the Mississippi per se, but like say if you're like next to like some random lake and like that's the only body, your sample is going to be a little bit different from compared like my sample is going to be different from yours because yours is on a big scale, like that's Atlantic Ocean style. So it's going to be a lot more, your sample is what makes the difference in the long run, because that is the second largest ocean in the world. So definitely. But now that I see this next question that I wrote down, I thought I was a big Disney person. You are 10 times the Disney person I am, as you were a Disney Dreamers Academy alum.
Yeah.
So when you did say you were a Disney fanatic, you were involved Disney lifestyle. So what was this 4-day experience consist of, and how do you believe it changed your outlook on life, and maybe even bring your Disney fanatics to another level?
Okay, so Disney Dreamers Academy was my freshman year, and I believe it's such that they take 100 people. So it was me plus 99 other people. And what the experience was, from what I can remember, it might not be exactly what happened every single day, but we had exposure to people in different fields in Disney. So the traditional Imagineer, someone that works in architecture, artists, musicians, and then also people that work with, I think someone worked with aerospace engineering or something similar on the engineering side. People work in marketing, etc. I was more so around professionals in animal and plant sciences because of my interest in biology, chemistry, biomedical sciences. So I had that small group, and then the broader group of experiences where they had everyone, no matter if you were in the Imagineering group or no matter if you were in the music group. And I think there was an animating group. I'm not sure. But no matter what, you were brought together and had different spaces for conversations, for not workshops, because they weren't workshops. It was more so being open, listening to different panels, and then everyone having an opportunity to contribute and learn. And it was very exciting. I know I'm not giving it, again, enough credit that it deserves. I think that the most valuable part of it was I remember being surrounded by so many high achieving people. And I remember people had very clear visions for where they wanted to go in life and what they wanted to do, and a lot of evidence for what they'd already done and had impact and been able to provide for other people. And me being a freshman, well, first of all, I wondered why I was even there, because I knew how competitive it was to be there, and some people had been applying and didn't get it until senior year. And I said, well, what did I do that was so special in middle school for me to get in now? But what changed so much was being there. I felt more confident in that I did deserve to be there. And then second was I felt more confident in where I was going, because I knew that there had been like a couple of spaces along the way where I thought, oh, why am I here? Like that was me in the ethical data science group, not knowing how to program. Like, why did I get placed in there instead of the lab research group? But being a DDA made me more confident, like I said, in myself, more confident in where I was going. And I think that that experience really influenced my high school trajectory afterwards, probably in more ways than I've noticed or been able to acknowledge. But yes, that's what I'd say about that. And then it made me more excited for the people I was around. I know one big thing in high school is like seeing your peers as your competition, or seeing that one CEO non-profit published person in California as your op or something.
Yeah.
But it made me more excited for everyone's hopes and ambitions. And if you didn't know, that was completely okay, because I was also someone that wasn't fully sure as someone who was just a freshman in high school. But it made me excited to be with a group of people like that. Very reminiscent of the community of the Koch scholars, if I shall say.
Definitely. That definitely, your experience there is reminiscent of what I've heard of other people talk about the Cola weekend, which we'll obviously get to later. But side question, did you get to go to Disney World, a part of the Disney Dreamers
Yes,
Academy?
it's in Disney World. You stay on property,
Did you stay in
and
like those hotels, like the resorts?
yes, yes.
Okay.
I
I've
don't
always wanted to
remember.
stay at Animal Kingdom, the resort. That's so
It
nice.
is so nice. And I think that, everyone does something unique because of the groups you're in. So everyone had not the same experience as like the person next to them. And I thought that was very cool. But it is so great. You do stay on property. You go, like they have the whole parade of all the dreamers going through Magic Kingdom. So that is definitely a hallmark of the experience as well.
Definitely. Was it just like you by yourself, or did you have like a parent or something? Or
I had my mom,
okay,
yes, and the parents went. The parents had something else they would do. So they the dreamers, we had our own thing. The parents also had their own thing. But yeah, we had me and my mom. I think you could choose anyone as a chaperone. My mom was the one who could take the 4 days. So
okay. Well, I guess I'm gonna be signing up my little brother and take him as my chaperone, because I want to stay on Disney property. Like what? Like that's something crazy. What? That'd be any kid's dream too. I mean,
Right.
it's a dream come true. Like that's Disney's theme catchphrase
That's
anyway. So
their phrase.
might as well make my dreams come true. Even though I'll technically be an adult then. I mean, my brother probably got the same dreams too. So what kid doesn't want to stay on
Right?
Disney? The 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 big magic like castle. Like what? Come on now. Definitely. But you also have a big, not only with leadership and obviously and research, you have your leadership with the Disney Dreamers Academy, but you also co-lead and have played a big role in the Special Olympics in your area. So
Yes.
how did you first get involved with the Special Olympics?
So I was first involved in middle school. We had a club called Unified Falcon Friends, and I joined that in seventh grade. And so I participated seventh grade and eighth grade. And then after eighth grade, over the summer, I applied to be a Special Olympics US Youth Ambassador, which was a 3-year term position as a unified pair. So I applied with someone that went with me to my middle school who has an intellectual disability. And so we applied together and got accepted into that program to represent the US. And that position lasted until junior year around that time. And from there, together, me and my partner, we decided to co-found the Special Olympics Eastern North Carolina Youth Activation Committee. So that sort of overlapped with my term as an ambassador because that founding was inspired by my experience as an ambassador. And then I held that position right until about now because I'm not going to be in North Carolina anymore. So I'll probably still try to be involved as long as possible. But yes, that the Youth Activation Committee, North Carolina scale, and then my other position was national scales. And then
Nah,
Unified Falcon Friends, I mean, that was in middle school, but I loved it equally.
definitely. I mean, helping. Did you ever take your track experience over to the Special Olympics, or was that something?
So much. Okay, so my county has unified track now, and that was an effort between multiple people, and it was probably between me and then my not my mentor, but another mentor, if you will, that was also involved with Unified Falcon Friends in my middle school. She was also a big proponent of being able to establish unified track, and then it was a network of people from the county, educators, and then special education programs at each high school in order to get that established. Like any other sport, unified track was something that was new, not in the sense that we didn't already have track, but in the sense that it wasn't like you were just having a sporting event where you separated people with and without disabilities. The unified track happens at a regular track meet, and we all had different practices with different coaches, but it's all together. So that's the aspect of where my sports involvement transferred. Other than that, the Youth Activation Committee is about supporting sport. So, one aspect of it is that we bring together about 80 or 80 plus, depending on how many applicants I think we got over 100 this past year. But our goal is to bring about 80 high schools together. And with that, we're actually supporting the Special Olympics North Carolina Summer Games as volunteers on the games management teams. So
Yeah,
that is another aspect. We're not participating, none of us participating with or without a disability participate in the games. We are solely there to volunteer and support the other athletes that are participating. So that's where there's any crossover between my sports and Special Olympics.
definitely. I know my school does the same thing with our track teams. We have our Special Olympics team and our our normal track team. Go hand in hand. They don't split the two up because like there's no point of doing that. Like one, it saves time, and two, everyone we're all still people. We're still humans. We can't really don't want to split them between the two. Yes, they have disabilities. I can see the fact that you're splitting the competition between them, but there's no point in you know splitting the two
Right.
track.
We're
Everyone,
all here for the sport, the joy of the sport, the joy of our teams, and being able to race. So I think, in a sense, that there are larger barriers and such to it in my county, in the state, in the world, but at least one start is just being able to have these people happy being able to run track. I think that's a bigger step than we acknowledge it for. However, I'm happy it exists now, and I'm surprised it didn't exist until this period. But here we are, and at least now I know you also have unified track.
exactly. I mean, at least it's here now. Like you said, it was bound to happen at some point, and then another. But especially with your experience with track, and then with this, you're able to add the two together. That's the good thing about a lot of extracurriculars. They are complementary to each other in a lot of ways, more than a normal person can think. So 100%, 100%. But not only on the leadership side, you have the Special Olympics, you have your Disney Dreamers Academy when you were a freshman, you got the research, but you also serve as president for student government and National Honor Society. Those are probably the two biggest organizations a school can have, and you're president for both of them. So as a leader for two large, societies, like National Honor Society is the honor society, and then SGA represents the whole school. Like I know both my school takes both of them with immense pride, and having the same president for both of them is truly like crazy. That's the most mind-boggling thing to me. So how do you believe you have made a change in your community for the better, as whether it's part of your school or just community in general, as a SGA president and NHS president?
I'd say that at the school level, in the honor I've had in being able to be president of both organizations, especially over a period of time since I was president for SGA for 3 years, being able to see the change in our school community and the change in the students themselves and wanting to be engaged with it. At least for my school, it's hard because we're split such that freshmen and sophomores are physically in the school building, and then juniors and seniors, we spread our wings and fly and take classes at the university. And teachers joke about us leaving our school behind because we're technically not there anymore. And I think that being able to be involved with both of them, I was really able to see how the initiatives that I started and encouraged people to be a part of, how they were able to develop more of a network and connection across different grades, but not one that was forced, more one that of genuine care, of being able to support the students that our school's producing, the people that they're making, and also being able to see the initiative of others. I know that it's hard. You're balancing classes, you're balancing extracurriculars. For us, our juniors and seniors are balancing college classes and any involvements that the college comes along with. And it's really hard to want to genuinely care about having to get in your 10 hours of volunteer work. And sometimes that, you really want, as someone who cares so deeply about service, you can't just force and preach your belief upon other people and think that they will internalize it and also have such a space and genuine care for it. And I think that what I was able to witness was people not only being excited to volunteer for National Honor Society, but then bringing forth other volunteer ideas they wanted us to do as a collective, and then other ideas for how to improve the school community. I think that a lot of the time people can talk to their class reps or talk to a teacher about something they don't like. And then when you sit down and ask, well, what needs to change? Then, and you don't know, and you can't
Exactly.
start somewhere. And what I enjoyed was that we were able to develop things and experiment and see what works, like developing a peer-to-peer tutoring program and being able to have these things that also don't just end when I'm gone. I'm gone now, but I have full faith and confidence that these things will be sustained and that now people have more of a sense of creativity and also anticipating that some things just might not work, but you can try more. We are very
Exactly.
smart and creative people, and we can get around roadblocks and we can see what happens. And that's what I enjoyed seeing. And I think one thing was that National Honor Society and SGA overlapped a lot.
Yes.
And then being able to have more things between more connections and strength between clubs, not just between the ones I was president of, because I mean, it's more easy to transfer
Exactly.
things between SGA and National Art Society when I'm president of both, but being able to have presidents of multiple clubs, Science Bowl, Science Olympiad, Math Competition Club, work together because this is a whole school. We're not clubs competing against each other. If there are ways to make our school community better, such as being able, if it's just simply moving dates of fundraisers, because you know you don't want to conflict with math clubs and women's empowerment through education, they're fundraisers. If it's a thing such as having a calendar that's managed where you can see different events and guest speakers that are coming to the school so someone can decide and finally discover maybe they want to go to Yale because they heard the speaker that came during lunch that they were aware of because of the calendar, those sorts of things. And being able to have the initiative for that and not me having to command people and go, you need to do this, you need to do XYZ, and constantly being reminding people to do things. It was more so of through my leadership. I obviously have not been the same leader that I was when I became president sophomore year, as I was senior year, as I was National Honor Society vice president and then president. I was not the same leader,
Exactly.
but I think I've been able to see how the leadership also with me has evolved and people bring forth and build off of their ideas together. The name president, I lead with people, not above
Yes.
people. I think has been my philosophy. Seeing my school's community change through that experience for the better, and then know that the other students at the school are excited for what's coming for Isaac Bear. I think that's been the most rewarding. And of course, we still give back to the community. I think my biggest impact I've had to my community beyond Isaac Bear, like a broader sense of community, was probably through Special Olympics, but then also through other positions I've had. I've had unique experience to talk and have discourse with our Board of Education, and I've had opportunities to talk with our superintendent, and I've had the chance to be able to discuss and put forth issues that I recognize in the county, at my school, at other schools, and I've been able to come together to change these things, not only at school levels and with the superintendent and the Board of Education, but being able to connect with other leaders at other schools, and then we help orchestrate and empower other youth with us to make the change instead of maybe relying on one figurehead to do it for us. Those
Exactly.
different levels of being able to see leadership in action and then by my peers versus and then working with adults as well, but not always having the adult be the one to do the change. I think that in a broader sense has been the impact I've been able to have on my community. Not the hours that I put into the log, not any award I got or any essay contest I entered writing about my service. It's just being able to witness the impact it's had on other people who now have a genuine sense of being able to use that so they can also impact and better the same community with their own passion. I'm not the same person in National Honor Society as my sister and we are still making impact.
Exactly. Obviously, like you did mention, SJ and NHS do go hand in hand. And like I did mention earlier, they are two of the biggest, for any school. They go hand in hand, and anything you do with both of them, there's going to be impact. Like my high school is the only high school in the Collierville area, so our SGA is going to be going hard in my town. So I definitely can see, you mentioned like the leader of change, like you said, president is not above the people. That's a dictator.
Right.
Is with the people. They're the leaders, but they're not above anybody. They don't serve above anybody. They don't make the rules. They're just the voice. And that is something truly of a leader. That's the reason why the podcast name is Voice for You. The student leaders are the voice for, exactly. So 100%. But, with all of these, crazy, the crazy research you've done, the experiences you've had, the leadership you hone, with all these accomplishments, you were awarded the Coca-Cola scholarship this past year. So how was that process of applying, and how was that experience traveling down to Atlanta, Georgia, and meeting 149 other people and being added to the crazy network of crazy leaders?
I think the process of applying was interesting in the sense that I had to really sit down and list on an index card everything I've done, and then take a moment to think about what story I'd be writing about in the application. Like the first rounds, you don't have essays. You submit baseline statistics. I figure like your GPA, class rank, if I'm remembering correctly. I think those are probably included, and some basic ideas for what you've been involved in, what levels of leadership you've had, sort of what you'd expect from any scholarship application. And then as you move on, it gets more in depth. I remember first thinking who in my area was a Coke Scholar, so I could think about what they're looking for. And I remember there were actually, at least to my knowledge, this should definitely be fact checked, but to my knowledge, in the Wilmington area, there hadn't, in my recent 4 years, been a Coke Scholar, but someone can check that. People might have made it to the different semifinalist, finalist rounds, but I quickly abandoned that idea and thought more about what I needed to write about myself versus thinking about what I could ask other people what they read about themselves. And I moved on through the process. I had an interview, and then I found out on the way home, actually, I think it was from a National Art Society meeting, that I was a Coke Scholar. And I was very excited because I didn't think it was going to be me. I mean, when you get through each stage, it tells you how many people were selected from the larger pool. There was over 100,000 or so, I believe, from my applicant pool. So I obviously accepted the scholarship when I got it. I experienced the weekend in Atlanta, and I was instantly welcomed into the family. I mean, they have people waiting for you, obviously, to usher you through the different areas of the weekend, make sure you get to everywhere you need to be, make sure you're not missing. That's important.
Missing anything, yeah.
I think that the experience overall, there's not a workshop. The way they organize it, it's nothing like the standard you'd expect of a workshop or sort of conference style setting. It's none of that. And I remember that being very, well, first freeing. Also, I was really nervous, so I didn't want that. I didn't want something that was that rigid. So very open environment and space to share ideas. And then we already got the scholarship, so it's more of a chance to learn more about each other, more about not not a lot of what we had done, since you could read that in the bios, but more about what we were hoping to do, since college was the next thing on most of everyone's list. From the experience, I think my favorite part about it was we got to understand each other as leaders on a deeper sense than you get from saying, oh, I was president of this club or vice president of this club. We really got to understand each other's broader perspectives, not just on life, but why we are here to lead and how we think we each contribute as leaders and what leadership looks like for us and what being able to have impact looks like for us. And I remember that being a very eye-opening conversation. I think in general, just being with the scholars, they're an energetic and passionate group. And this is probably just reiterating and echoing any other sentiment that a scholar has said. But there's not one person you couldn't go up to and have any conversation with. And you got to ask each other different questions. I think I remembered sitting on a bus, and I was used to the questions, what's your major? Where are you going? And this person asked, so what's your life story? And it was just having the space to talk about that. I was like, okay, here we go. We're starting with day one, talking about who I am and knowing that the scholars, they're all like that. None of them are going to reject you. They all welcome you, and they're all just excited to have those conversations that sometimes it's a little challenging to have, maybe a little risky to go beyond the conversation of asking like the standard, to think outside the box, as they say.
Exactly. Obviously, all of y'all have they've probably gotten that exact same question too multiple times, and trust me, they're probably annoyed and done with those questions.
Right.
So obviously, all of y'all are like 150 of the best students in the whole nation when it comes to academics and passion and all that. And getting that same, where are you going? What are you doing? And obviously, I'm pretty sure a lot of people were undecided then too, because that weekend was around the time Ivy Day happened. And with a lot of people, like with Ivy Day, they were like, I'm still considering this school and this school. They're not like, I'm dead set on this school, because they just came out. Then you need to ponder that for a good week or two, not just one day.
People were weighing different decisions, and then we were all still waiting. I don't think up to that point anyone had gone on like the admitted students weekends, because at least the Ivies and MIT still had theirs later in April. So everyone was still weighing decisions. And I think that some people were decided, some people weren't, but everyone was where they were. And we're 150, as you said, pretty accomplished individuals, so a lot of people had different options.
Yeah, definitely. It's like crazy stats from all. Obviously, with you've had crazy stats. The rest of you are crazy. And then not only that, like you did mention, I got this in another interview. Cope did a really good job on choosing, not to offend anyone that didn't make it to this part, but all the Coke scholars are non-NPC. Y'all have lives behind who y'all are. You have passions. You are a big Disney fanatic. You would watch Criminal Minds. You have more to you. And same thing with the rest of the Coke scholars. Like, going into this, I was scared. Like, I read these big paragraphs of all of you. I was like, did this research, did this research, got this many people, earned this much money. And I'm like, what am I supposed to talk to these kids? Like, I'm a rising senior that just lives life. I don't do that much, like, compared to y'all. I was scared I wouldn't be able to have a genuine conversation with y'all. Like, I was expecting interviews to be like 20 minutes, 30 minutes long, because it'd just be short answers, quiet people. But y'all blew me out of the water, all of y'all, like yourself and everyone else. Y'all are actually people I can like talk to. Like, to begin this whole interview, we spent 10 minutes talking about Disney characters. Like, it's just y'all, like, Coke made a very, very good, decision by choosing those people that have personalities to them and have passion. Not because you can have personality, but you don't have passion. You can
Right.
have passion but no personality. But they made a good decision with having people that are passionate about what they do and the personality to back it up. And I'm truly grateful that they selected y'all because y'all have been a great, budget. I'm truly grateful for each and every single one of y'all that has, I've talked to because it truly does mean a lot to me, like from the bottom of my heart.
I think that's something that's quite special about Coke Scholars. They just, to put it simply, they love so deeply. So they are so open to talking about anything that they love, a niche interest, their research, their favorite Disney character, really anything. And like you said, we're people beyond our passions. So we're able to have those conversations and not be someone that's so uninspiring or not
Exactly.
creative. Like I enjoy that about the Coke Scholars because I, for one, am very social, and going into Coke Scholars Week was afraid of not being able to have genuine conversations with people and scared of having those conversations that are just, what are your stats? What were your scores? And I think that I'm really happy that you've been able to have these connections with Coke Scholars and are willing to help you and your podcast. And I think we all probably see something special in where it's going, and we have a hope for where it's going. And we're happy to be here for you. And I won't speak on behalf of all of them, but I hope they all get to speak with you and contribute the same sentiment.
Definitely. Thank you. That genuinely does mean like a lot to me. I started this podcast a couple of months ago. A lot of people, like I was talking to like one of my friends. I was at a party yesterday. I was just naming my ECs. He was like, dude, like I didn't mention the podcast yet. I was talking about like I'm state officer for FBLA. I have an internship. I'm a CMO for a nonprofit. He was like, dude, those are not even your top ECs. And I was like, really? Because like this one like the nonprofit I'm part of, they've raised like 40K in the past like 3 years for kids with like childhood heart diseases. And then like I'm state officer for Tennessee FBLA. So I was like, really? And he was like, no, dude, it's your podcast. Like you've like it's really like taken off. I was expecting you to only interview like kids in our school, have something silly, but you've gone above and beyond and interviewed crazy, crazy people with the Coke Scholar series. And I couldn't have done this without all of y'all, reaching back out and scheduling all of this. So, making this, this has truly been a crazy, crazy ride for me. And I truly cannot appreciate, like, I can't explain how much I am grateful for each and every single one of y'all. So, like, truly, truly, definitely. But, at the end of all this, speaking of Coca-Cola, why do you believe you were a Coke Scholar?
That's a big question. Why do I believe I was a Coke Scholar? I think that one common thread between the Coke Scholars is not only our passion for service and our passion for bettering our community, but also being able to see futures that will have challenges. I think that I know that I've had a lot of interests and I've made space to explore every single interest. And I mean, I've had roadblocks along the way, things I didn't anticipate, thinking that I was veered off of the track I had planned and that everything would be ruined. And I think that not only my resilience, but not only creativity, but being able to sit and accept, like, I didn't want this to happen, and it did. I'm going to see where it's going to take me. Philosophy for life and where I've gone through high school, I think that I do have things and accomplishments to back up being a Coke Scholar. Having the service, having the research involvement, having this breadth and repertoire of extracurriculars, and leadership and awards and honors. And I think that what has been unique for me in being able to be a cook daughter, like I said, was my resilience. Not easy. I've stumbled, fallen, still gotten up, and still trusted where I was going, even if I wasn't confident in it. There's a time I thought that me having a lot of interests was sort of my Achilles heel, what would be the reason why I might not get into MIT, or the reason why colleges might look at me and think, oh, she did too many things. Like, you're not supposed to do it that way. You're supposed to only pick a few things and put all your energy into those few things. And I really, at some point, just decided not to be afraid of where my curiosity or where my interests were going to take me. So that led me to a great variety of different opportunities that I believe were my strength in being able to be a Cook Scholar. And I don't believe I talked about it as much in this interview, but like I said, I'm an artist. So being a scientist and an artist, especially a visual artist, I think it's not just a strength or something that's rare or unique. That's something where I've been able to have this scientific brain that's so used to precision and so used to rigidity and accuracy, and having to have, a p-value to a certain decimal place, and be able to have something that's clean and crisp and all this data supporting one conclusion. Then having this artist brain that where nothing could there's no reason that you might want to paint a flower that doesn't actually look like a flower, and you're like, it's just the essence of a flower. Or be able to have a portrait of somebody and know that it's not exactly the angle of their nose, or their eyelashes aren't exactly the same in the painting, but you know it's just them. And I think that being able to combine the different aspects of my science brain and my art brain towards that philosophy of resilience and trusting, not trusting the process, but trusting where my creativity, like I said, took me. I think that's what made me a Coke Scholar, even if I did not talk about art too much on this interview, but it has been a core shape in what I do, sort of that fluidity, not abstractness, but being able to see a shape and you're like, maybe I can make this into a vase. Maybe it does look like a vase. I think I believe that's what made me a Coke Scholar, even if that's not what their admissions team wrote down for my reason for being picked.
Yeah. What is your favorite form of art, in general?
I like oil pastels and acrylic art, any multimedia art that's layered, larger scale. Portraits and nature is what I enjoy.
Okay.
So in terms of defining that, in not exactly modern art, I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of trends that have involved in modern art. However, I am a big proponent of this one artist, Dare Coulter, an emerging, I'd say, modern artist for black community. She does a lot of sculpture, more local stuff in North Carolina. I'm not sure how many other people outside North Carolina have heard about her, but I enjoy the vibrancy and breadth she brings to art, because she does do a lot of sculptures or larger scale, you can imagine, murals. So that's what I enjoy the most.
Definitely. I am big on the art, like art, except I say I'm a more artsy guy, except for actual like painting. Like this picture right here is probably the best thing I've ever painted in my life. Like, I'll be so honest. And I drew that in second grade. I just found it one day. But I'm a musical guy. I took classical Indian singing for like a decade. I still sing on the side, I'm a big film guy. Photography has always been a hobby of mine. But I definitely can see where you're coming from when it comes to art side, except the actual art, because I can't draw or paint for the life of me. The best thing I could probably draw you is a stick figure. That's probably it. And
Well,
that
I
lead.
cannot sing or play an instrument or dance, so
Yeah, everyone's to each to their own strength
right.
is what we like to say. I'm like my parents put me in art classes too as a kid, but I don't know, it just never clicked. Probably because I'm not the best when it comes to like visual drawing or something. I have no clue. I've it because art's really cool. Like I took APR history, so I got to like don't get me wrong, that class was hell. But just seeing all that was pretty cool. But it was hell but nice at the same time. Very very rare for someone to say that, but I guess some well, yeah. 100%. But to round out this episode, the Voice for You podcast is about empowering the leaders of today and tomorrow. That is our tagline. So, what is some advice that you have for either me, the audience, or anybody in general trying to be a leader in their own community and make a difference for tomorrow?
Okay. Any advice I have? I feel like anything I say is
I
gonna
mean,
be
obviously.
cliche. I'll try my best. My advice would be dream bolder. I think people often say dream big, and well, maybe someone else already said dream bolder, and I'm just stealing that from them. But I will back up there anyone that's quoted dream bolder. I say that because when people say big, big is hard to quantify. And people come from so many diverse backgrounds. Like someone's big dream might not look like being president or being a pilot. Someone's big dream could look like being able to help out a local food pantry and provide for 5 families they know that are in need in their neighborhood. I say dream bolder instead of dream big because of that. And I also say that to empower people that think their dreams are too small and that means they're not worth pursuing. Any dream is worth pursuing. And I think that the space to allow a dream to grow big, that's why you need to dream bolder. That's the advice I would give. I believe that should resonate with you, with the audience. And what I hope that people do with that advice of being able to dream bolder, they learn more not be afraid of risks or not be afraid of uncertainty or the future, but to be able to embrace that inherent sense of that comes with leadership, that comes with being able to take a step someone else hesitates to take, being able to know sometimes it's scary, sometimes you might fail, something might not work, but you are dreaming bolder and you can still do hard things. You will do them. And it's not just you can, but you will, is what I would say. And that's my parting piece of advice as a Coke scholar.
Definitely, definitely. Obviously the dreaming, as a Disney fanatic, that's obviously going to tie in,
Mm-hmm.
when you wish upon a star. But definitely, you are very, very enhanced when it comes to leadership. So obviously, any advice you have for a future leader is always going to be valid. And I do agree, dream bolder. Everyone says dream big. It gets boring at times. But dream bold, there's not. If you want to do something, then go ahead. That's one thing. Passion is a common topic amongst these episodes. It's
Mm-hmm.
if you're not passionate about something, then it's not fun, and you don't want to actually do the work. But if you are passionate, it becomes play, not actual play, but it's more fun and more lighthearted for you to move on and do. So
It's not like work or a chore in a sense. Like
exactly,
when you are passionate about something, it does not feel like that.
exactly. It's fun. You enjoy it. You're doing something you love. So definitely, passion can take you a long way in life, in whatever field you're doing. So great, great advice. But once again, Maya, thank you so much, truly, for joining us today on this episode of Voice for You. It really does mean a lot to me, spreading your words of wisdom and, telling us your life story, your extracurriculars, and your ways of being a leader of tomorrow. And hopefully, you have inspired me, but, the audience members, they have gotten, your words of wisdom and I hope that they do that as well in their own community. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.
Definitely. And to the viewers at home, thank you so much for watching till the very end. Remember to follow the Voice for You podcast on wherever you find your podcast. Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, and also follow us on Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Once again, I'm your host, Jeshwant Vana. Thank you so much, Maya, for joining us on this episode, and we will see y'all next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.